355 of Good Luck High Five.
That's right. You're listening to a podcast that's for you if you play Magic the Gathering. Whether you're playing some arena or you're heading out to your local game store or you're just sitting at home playing with your buddies.
I'm one of your hosts, Maria.
I'm another one of your hosts, Megan.
And if it sounds echoey where we are, that's because we're recording in a conference room in Richmond, Virginia.
That's right. I feel very professional and as though I am about to tell several of my colleagues my ideas.
Yes.
Rhubarb, 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 rhubarb.
Oh, thank you for that.
Oh, there's so much hubbub in
There's
this
so
room.
many hubbubs.
So much hubbub.
That
Thank you,
special
everyone.
hubbub is a preview that we will be having two special guests on this episode.
That's right. Two guests,
Which
not
is
just one. but
like
two.
third week in a row we've had special guests.
Who was the first one?
Loading Ready Run people.
Oh my goodness.
Adam and Ben.
That was a lifetime ago.
I know it was. So if you don't feel like you're getting your Patreon dollars worth, I'd
I
have
don't
you
know
check
what
yourself.
is up.
Because these episodes have been great.
Put on a hat and sit down because you need to reevaluate.
The reason we're in Richmond, Virginia, and the reason we have two special guests is because we just got done with Mythic Championship VI.
Yes.
Whew. And boy, are
In
my
Richmond,
arms
Virginia.
tired.
Wait.
And the rest of me. The rest of me is also tired.
Oh, I'm tired top to bottom. So, as evidenced by that long pause,
Yes,
where
yes,
my
yes,
brain
yes.
could not make up another sentence.
But we are
Before we
coming
get
at
started,
you with an episode.
Yes.
Even though we are
even though we're here,
at the door, death's door.
thank you to the people who make it possible, everyone who's a patron of the show over on patreon.com/GLHFmagic. We super appreciate it. You make this possible. And you are the reason why, even when we're in Richmond and we're so tired that I could lay down on this conference room floor and sleep, we're making this episode.
That's right. We do it for you.
Yeah.
And if this podcast is of any value to you, please consider going over there and becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month or
Yeah.
$1.25 an episode, which is $5
You
a
also
month.
get access to our sweet hangouts every month. You can challenge Maria and I to matches, and we play different flavor text theater games on stream. It's a really good time.
It's awesome.
It is.
Big thanks to cardkingdom.com/GLHF2. Head over there to buy anything you need in your magical life. They've got singles, they've got boxes, they've got sleeves, they've got binders, they've got anything you could want with the fastest shipping on the planet. And you can
Yes.
say, good luck, high five, and they'll give you a sticker or a token in your order for free.
We recently went there for the Chalice, which was a delightful
It was
event. And we
amazing.
met so many of their wonderful, hardworking people.
Yeah,
They're great.
They're a great company.
They're so great.
And we believe in supporting great companies, and they support us too. So it's like the circle of life when you go over
Yes.
to cardkingdom.com/GLHF.
Owimboa, Owimboa, Owimboa.
The Circle of Life? That's a different song. You're singing In the Jungle.
They're both from the same film.
Wait, are they really? Is that really from that song? Is it?
What?
I thought it happened before Lion King, that Owimawa was out.
What?
Melissa's agreeing with me.
Yeah.
I was thinking of In the Jungle.
Yeah.
It was a real song
It was
Before the Lion
before
King?
the Lion King.
Absolutely.
Are you all three lying to me right now?
No.
Wow.
But also, was it in The Lion King? Was it even in The Lion King? Is
No.
my question.
Was it?
I don't think it was.
I feel crazy. let's
move on.
move on.
All right, everybody, it's time to welcome our very special guests for this episode, Brian, David Marshall, and Melissa DeTora.
Yay!
I'm so
Hi.
happy you're both here. Brian, how are you feeling this morning?
I'm feeling a little rundown.
Yeah.
Would be the euphemism I would use.
Why is that? Why are you feeling run down?
I didn't have to really do a lot of work this week. I was here for like one very specific targeted mission, and then I didn't have to get up early to be at the show. Like
Like
what time's your
normally.
call time, Maria?
My call time was 7:30, so that meant I had to get up at 6 a.m.
Yeah. So I didn't have any kind of call times, and I was able to maybe stay out a little later
Oh, I
than
see
I
what
might
you're saying.
normally
I
stay
see
out
what
on
you're
any
saying.
given night.
Yeah, I'm putting two and two together
Yeah,
over here.
Yeah. And then last night was really the end of the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
That we know it, right? Like since 1996, there's been this thing that we think of as the Pro Tour. It's been called the Mythic Championship. It's been called whatever. But like these large events where people gather from all over the world to compete for this title that happens, a handful of times a year. It is the pinnacle of achievement for any competitive Magic player, and that's ending. This was the last one. Andre Strosky is our last Pro Tour champion. There will be something else that replaces it next year, but it's going to be different, and the experience of seeing people from all over the world isn't ever really going to happen in the same way again. And it was a little sad. We found an Irish bar and we drank until they kicked us out.
That's awesome. I have a question though, quickly before we get to Melissa. Don't you think the Players Tour's final will be the same experience?
I think it'll be similar, but I don't think it'll be the same because it won't be. You won't see the players who are coming up, right? You'll get this like distilled field of the best from around the world, but that's going to be a smaller field tournament, the finals, right? Like compared to what we would get at the Pro Tour, you're not going to get, Martin Mueller going to a handful of these before his breakout finish. We wouldn't see Melissa, right? Like we would see Melissa at Pro Tours and follow her story until she got to her breakout top 8, right? Like. It's just not going to be that same ability to see everybody in the same room together and sort of track people's progress and watch those stories take bloom.
Yeah, so the end of an era and the start of a new one, I think, is kind of the narrative that came out of this weekend. And you were here for part of that, which was inducting Reed Duke into the Hall of Fame, in which he said something very similar in his acceptance speech. And we got to have you on coverage for a little bit, too, which was awesome.
I missed it.
Yeah, we missed you, of course.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, we really, really did. And Melissa's joining us here this morning as well, and you were at the tournament as a representative of Wizards of the Coast, where you now work.
Yep, that's right. I was here to, watch matches, talk to players, get feedback so I can take it back to my team and just try to make Magic the best game it can be.
So you just were having conversations with players about what they thought about Standard? What were the kind of things you were talking about?
Just like, how can we do better at making fun Standard formats? What are some of the problematic cards? What could happen hypothetically if we do a round of bans on November 18th? Like, what decks will rise up to the top and stuff? We also talked a lot about limited and like how we can make certain colors that are usually like weaker colors, like for example white.
Yes.
Like, how can we make white a better color and limited going forward? Things like that.
Awesome. And let's just have a little chitty chat about like how the Mythic Championship went for everybody and everybody's experience.
Before that, I just want to let everyone know that In the Jungle was in fact featured in The Lion King. Also, it has a very long and interesting history.
When did it come out?
It was originally recorded in the 1930s, and the original was in Zulu.
Oh, no way. The
And then there were
1930s?
Yes. Yes, in 1939 by Solomon Linda. It was adapted and covered internationally by many pop and folk revival artists. So there you go.
Oh, well. Wow.
Yeah, which is the one that you probably know is the doo-wop group, The Tokens.
Oh, are they a magic group?
Apparently. Anyways, so there you go. I just wanted us all to know that it is in fact in The Lion King.
Thank you for that.
All right.
So yeah, Mythic Championship, Andre Strosky, the champion with Simic Food, I think is kind of one of the outcomes that seems like, oh, that's appropriate for this tournament.
Yeah.
Winning with that deck.
Also, I have to say, they were very long matches on Sunday.
Oh yeah.
They were some of the longest matches of Magic I've ever been made to witness.
It was
in my life.
A long 3 days overall.
But also, there was a time, I think in the quarterfinals, when Andre was playing against Luis Del Tour, a French player, that I was just like, all of us sitting back in the text coverage area were watching, and we were just like, he's lost this game. And then like 15 minutes later, he won that game.
Yeah.
And that was, to me, indicative of his play throughout, at least the top 8. There were so many times when I watched him navigate himself out of like really difficult situations. It was really impressive play.
I feel like that was a theme throughout the top 8, that you would think a game or a match was coming to a conclusion, and then there would just be some haymaker on the other side, and the momentum would completely swing that way. And that part was kind of cool.
It was. I think it was a universal agreement that the matches were very, very interesting to watch, and it required super high levels of skill to play those matches as well as we saw them being played. A lot of people were down because, obviously Oko decks were super dominant. If you count cards on the sideboard, etc., it was 69% of the field, right? So people were down about that. But the fact remains that the matches were extremely, extremely good Magic, especially game 4 of the finals, I think is the one we're talking about.
Yeah.
So for you, Melissa, how was the tournament for you?
It was really interesting. I had a good idea going in what I was going to see and the feedback that I was going to hear, and that was for the most part correct. But I thought the games were really interesting, like you guys said. The games were just super back and forth. When one player was winning, that did not mean they were winning. Like, there were a lot of comeback moments. I also saw a lot of really interesting decks that were trying to beat Oko, like the Jeskai Fires deck, the Rakdos Knights deck, and the coolest decks that I've seen in the tournament, I think, were the Sacrifice decks with the Cat and the Oven and Korvold. Those were very cool decks. And I actually also watched the GP a lot because there was a lot of downtime in the Pro Tour Top 8, so I was just hanging out in the GP area and watching, and they were doing a lot of also interesting things, usually involving Oko, but also just a lot of iterations of the Oko deck with the cat food stuff. So very cool to see.
By the way, Reed Duke got his 24th Grand Prix top 8 this weekend.
Wait, he went over and played the Grand Prix and got top 8?
Made top 8. I don't know where he... I honestly haven't looked at coverage.
I didn't even see that.
I don't know where he finished.
He either ended up first or second. I know that much.
Yeah, I do remember that he was in the finals, and I don't know what happened after that.
Oh my God. That number is absurd. 24?
Yeah, with 6 wins.
Wow.
Or more.
Or more. We
Potentially
don't know.
7.
Yeah,
Who knows?
potentially
We're living in a bubble. This is really
Maybe we should look this up.
Schrodinger's GP finals.
You should certainly look it up before you record the upkeep. is
Right
all I'm
now,
saying.
right now, he has both won and not won the finals. So
Right.
Yeah,
Schrodinger's cat food.
But the cat food deck, which I think a lot of people refer to as the Sultai Sacrifice deck, was actually one of the best performing decks at the tournament, which was not represented in the top 8, but regardless of that, had a very good day 2 conversion and did very well in the standard portion.
yeah, I heard good things out on the floor about that deck, in terms of their standard win percentages. And I think that's a deck that we could potentially see in some iteration, whatever the environment looks like post bans.
Yeah, absolutely. Rakdos Knights, like you said, did pretty good too. I love that deck. I think it's really cool. Believe in the cleave, you know what I mean? So
I think the Gruul
Adventure
deck had a very good conversion rate to day 2.
yes, Gruul Adventure was the best performing non-Oko deck in the field.
It was also played by 3 of the best players in the world.
Yeah, so
that
maybe excuse it. I don't know.
It might be a high performance vehicle, that is best piloted by high performers. I don't know.
By specifically Javier Dominguez.
Yes.
Unstoppable Magic Juggernaut.
Almost made top 8.
Almost made top 8.
By the way.
It would have been absolutely.
Current reigning world
Absurd.
champion.
Yeah.
Just won the last Mythic Championship.
Yeah.
Top 8'd in, where was it? Where did he top 8? London, I think.
Yeah, or Vegas.
So
I don't remember.
if he made it again, I was just going to be like, what the heck is going on with this guy?
Yeah.
He's so good.
I mean, he still is.
Correct.
He still had an absolutely absurd finish.
And Paulo Vitor Damarosa making his 13th Pro Tour top 8 as well is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah. BDM, I feel like you'll have a real opinion on this one. Obviously, there's a lot of talk right now with Paulo making this 13th top 8. Where do you think he falls on the list of greatest players of all time?
I've said this for a couple years now. I think the list is in personal preference pick order. You can just put it in whatever order you want. John, Kai, Paulo.
Yeah.
I
think
agree.
that's it. I think that is the tier. And then it's Luis, Nassif, and
Maria,
Luis,
yeah.
Yeah. Luis is very close, I think, to that. I think Luis and Nassif, you just have to draw a line somewhere, but really, I think those are the top 5 for me.
Melissa, for you coming here and watching this tournament and stuff and being an absurdly good Magic player and playing at the highest levels.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, it's just flat out true for a long time.
New England and boss.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your early days playing Magic a little bit later, but what was it like for you to watch? Do you ever just be like, oh, put me in, coach?
I mean, sort of. Like, I do have those feelings of, oh wow, this is bringing back so many memories. This is great to see, and like, I wish I could play at this level again. But you know, I'm happy with where I am. It was definitely great to see all these players do well, because I remember when Paulo was a little, well, I guess a kid. He was pretty young.
I mean, yeah,
he was
he's still
like a
pretty
teenager.
young, so.
Like, I remember when he was up and coming, and I chatted with him at Pro Tour Valencia 2007, and he was like a kid, and I had talked to him before online in this Magic League group, and I was like, oh, this Brazilian kid, cool. I'm gonna meet him for the first time. He seems like a really good player, and then he went on to become who he is today, and that was kind of crazy.
Speaking of little kids, Andre Strosky, how old is he? 26, something like
Yeah.
that? And this is his fourth top 8?
Third Pro Tour top 8.
Pro
I guess
Tour top 8?
Fourth top finish.
Yeah.
Right?
So like that's kind of wild.
That's completely wild.
That's
yeah,
that's
very
a lot
impressive.
at that age.
Hold on, I want you to say, because you dodged my question, order the 3. Like, what is your personal order of the 3 best players?
Order them.
Order them.
I think I'm always going to have John in first.
Yeah.
Just because of his ability to understand the game from its inception. He just understood it. He was the best at it. It was bewildering. He is the person that made it clear to me that the game was a game of skill. Then I'm going to have Kai because of the number of wins. And because he's the person who said, you know, yes, it is skill, but it's also hard work. And he showed that to me. And then Paulo, I mean, and it's really super close. And Paulo just for the consistency and for just, you know, being, I mean, he's an elite talent. So that would be my ordering. I would fault no one for saying Paulo has done it in an era where there's so much more information.
Players are just better.
And the players
overall.
are just better, and the floor of who you play against is much higher. And if someone wanted to make that sort of like era-based claim and put Paulo at the front of the list, I could not fault you for that. But I give John credit for just like walking into a dark room and being able to navigate it expertly while everyone else was just still stubbing their toes every 2 feet.
They were all in the mirror maze of Magic.
Oh, yes, aren't we all?
I mean, yeah.
I think what was really super special about this event was the fact that Andre got to get his first win, his first Pro Tour win against someone who he grew up idolizing.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was really cool.
Absolutely.
And if you watch the end of the event, you know, Andre, you know, they worked together. They were, you know, they prepared for this event together. They were playing, I don't know if it was identical lists or very similar.
No, very
lists.
almost identical.
Almost, and the games just went the full 5, and every game was just like really incredible. And then, you know, Paulo extends his hand, and Andre wins, and his friends and his teammates come over and they congratulate him. And one of his teammates is Paulo. And so Paulo has to gather himself from not getting his third Pro Tour top 8, which is an elite number.
Win.
His third win, I'm sorry, which is a very elite number.
Yes.
Very, very rarefied air. Has to gather himself from that. And then he gets up and he goes over and he shook his hand at the table, but then walks away from the table, walks around and comes over to Andre as a teammate. And he congratulates him and they embrace. And it was, I cried actually about it. It was just a really wonderful moment to me, and really, you know, as someone who looks at the history of the Pro Tour, seeing that legacy passed down, you know, and seeing that next, you know, wave of great young players. Not that Paulo and Andre are that far apart in age,
Yeah.
but
You know,
in
they say
experience.
never meet your heroes, but you should probably definitely play your heroes in the finals.
Yes.
of the
Yes.
Mythic
The
Championship.
Mythic Championship.
I'm just like checking to make sure you're not like worried about time or whatever.
Okay.
So
I can always change my flight if I have to. It's just very late if I change it.
So let's get a quick life check-in for both of you. I think the listeners will be interested. Let's start with Melissa. So like we mentioned, you know, a great player and now working for Wizards of the Coast. What is your job there? And because I don't know if we've talked to you on the show about that since you started. And like, what's your day-to-day and how do you like it?
Sure. Okay. I think the last time I was on your podcast was like 3 years ago. Does
Yeah,
that
I think it's
sound
when you were a
right?
contractor.
And I believe I had just returned to Wizards from a short hiatus from Wizards.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's probably a long story, but
But let's hear what you're doing.
yeah. So I'm on the play design team. We're responsible for like format health for competitive Magic. We want our goals are to make Magic as fun as it can be. So we do a lot of play testing. We do a lot of designing cards for formats. We like focus on formats that our players play the most, which is standard and limited. A little bit of older formats, but mostly standard and limited. And it's really fun. And I play lots of Magic, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's like insane, challenging job, but it's great.
Yeah. Can I ask? I was just thinking about this. It's so weird. If you think of like, I think of so many jobs these days, especially in offices, that like a lot of what you're doing is like on a computer, but that's not your life. You're like actively playing matches of Magic.
Yeah, we do play a lot of Magic, but we don't get me wrong. Like if we are in an office, we do have a desk and a computer, and like we do spend time just reading set files and like giving feedback on cards and writing up. Like we do a lot of like write-ups about stuff.
Yeah.
Posting deck lists, research of like decks that people are playing out in the real world, and like trying to see what we can learn from those. So it is a lot of desk work, but we do play Magic as well.
It's just very cool to think of a job that has like such an active piece of it. Of like, oh, like gotta go play some. Exactly, gotta go draft, gotta go play some matches.
I want to know too. I mean, I talked about how hard the job is, and I just like literally can't imagine how much that's true. When you put a format out into the world, which we're 2 years behind you now in development, something like that.
For our team, it's about 9 months to a year.
Okay,
about
9 months to a year. How confident are you, like when you have to like put the like send email or whatever, like put the set into the world,
like submit, right?
Yeah, submit deck list.
We're usually pretty confident, but like we make tons of mistakes all the time, but like we have to be confident. If we're not confident, then we're just going to do a bad job, I think. So like we're pretty confident. Like our goal is not to just find the tier 1 decks or just make sure to have tier 1 decks, because if we do that, then the format is just going to get solved too quickly. So we just try and put out there strong options for players and then just have them find the right decks. Because like I said, like if we know what the decks are and they're actually stronger than we thought, then they would just be dominating. And like we also want to try and make a format that is harder to solve, as hard to solve as possible, basically.
Right.
Can I ask a hard question?
Okay.
I mean, you talk about this responsibility from play design. How do you feel when you come to an event like this and you look at a standard format that is so warped around one card and one deck? Like, is that something, like, how does that affect you in terms of, like, your work pride and, like, you know, what's that experience like from your perspective?
All right. Yeah. Like, honestly, it does feel pretty bad. Like this, obviously things did not go according to plan here. So we knew Oko was a problem well before this Pro Tour. Like we did have a feeling that it would be dominant after the Field of the Dead ban. So we actually spent a lot of time just like looking back and seeing what went wrong, how did this card change, and when and why, and where did this card go wrong. And so we have had a lot of conversations about Oko internally to figure out where do we go wrong with this card, you know? So like, yeah, we're like pretty sad about it, I would say. I can't really speak for everyone, but I'm pretty sad about it. It's been pretty rough. This Pro Tour, like, people come up to me and they're like, oh yeah, I don't want to talk about Oko because I know that you already know. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
I got that part.
Yeah. They're like, let's move. That's like the tier, like that's like the step 1 problem. It's like, oh, we already know. You're already on that step. Like, what's the next stair?
What's the weirdest card someone told you needed to be banned in standard this week?
Oh, the weirdest? Nothing weird, honestly. Everything like they said, I was like, yeah, I could see that. Like nothing was super weird. I don't think.
No one was like, Cauldron Familiar needs to be banned.
Please ban the 3/3 that comes into the battlefield and pumps your dudes for +1/+1 until end of turn.
For this Pro Tour, I think it's like pretty obvious what the problem cards are. That said, we're not going to ban like every card, you know. But like I can tell you a story about when I was chatting with a player at a GP a while back, and the format was like overall like pretty healthy, I think. But he was just telling me about how much Command the Dreadhorde needed to be banned. It was just like warping standard, and it was super bad. And I was like, oh, geez, like, can you like elaborate on that a little bit? And he just like had this like huge story about how Command the Dreadhorde was problematic for standard.
That card is
Yeah.
that
It
card
turned
is
out to be
sweet.
pretty sweet.
I love
Lost,
that.
lost to
was
that
sick.
card yesterday.
Maybe
yeah.
that player just like played against it like 3 times in a row at a GP
And was just like, I'm
and we're just
over
like,
it.
oh, this card is the worst.
Yeah. I remember feeling that way about Heart of Kirin. I was just like, great, different Smuggler's Captor. But you know what? It was fine.
All right, Brian, it's your turn. Give us a life update. You're the Pro Tour historian. You stepped back from coverage. What are you doing now?
So Pro Tour historian emeritus.
Emeritus?
Yes, that's
but
right.
but nobody's replaced you as the Pro Tour historian.
Well,
And no one ever will.
we
Yeah,
don't-
maybe we don't
We
know.
don't know what'll
Yeah.
happen next year as far as the Hall of Fame. I mean, Pro Tour historian was largely a Hall of Fame curation title. It's a little bit of a misnomer. And there's just no more Pro Tour, right? Even this year it was the Mythic Championship. So I
Yeah.
just cheekily
Okay,
called it
emeritus.
that. And maybe
great
Pro Tour
title.
emeritus historian.
Yes.
I am working as the chief creative officer for a new startup. We're doing games, collectibles, and a bunch of other cool stuff that we're going to be announcing probably at the start of the year. I'm working with Zvi. I'm working with some other people that you'll probably know, but we're not making a big deal out of stuff right now. But it's really exciting. I get to use all of my work experience. My work experience, as someone who worked in the field of public relations, as someone who worked in the field of comic book publishing, as someone who's worked as a creative director, and sort of put that all together and making cool new things and using new technology, and it's very exciting. It's been really challenging. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm really excited about the year 2020.
Nice.
Awesome.
And for people listening who aren't as up to date, Zvi is a Hall of Famer from Magic, an old school
Absolutely.
Magic the Gathering player.
Yeah, someone I've known since he was, a young kid playing Magic at my store in New York.
It's really cool to see like 2 people like you met through Magic, and now like you're jumping onto like a new phase of like games in your lives.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
that's
very cool.
the last however many years, my previous business, I was partnered with Matt Wang, who's a GP winner, who's someone I met through Magic at Neutral Ground, and is one of my really close friends. And the game is amazing that way in terms of if you want to have smart people put into the path of your life, Magic is a great
very
place to
true.
do that.
Magic is a very good way to meet smart people.
I mean, it's just like we're constantly surrounded by smart people, too,
Yeah.
honestly.
Sometimes they're a little one-track mind.
That's, yes.
Here's the thing about smart, or at least the way I've always viewed it, is intelligence is not one thing.
Yes,
of course not.
absolutely.
But and there are a lot of people people tend to think their form of intelligence is the most important.
Yes.
The thing that they're really smart about.
Yes.
But there's a lot of different ways
Yeah.
that are not just, being able to calculate the probability of the most rational outcome,
I was having a conversation with someone about this
yeah,
weekend.
it's like, sometimes there is an emotional intelligence. There's a lot of different ways to be very smart in this world. And Magic does incorporate a lot of those. So
Yeah, for sure.
So you just mentioned Neutral Ground, which is going to be my segue into one of the reasons that I wanted you two to come on the show this week, because you're talking about this at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. You were telling me an old school story of Melissa, and Neutral Ground was a store you had in New York City, and Melissa was a player on the East Coast, and kind of like just hearing stories of Magic back in the day and what it was like was so interesting to me since Meghan and I started playing in 2012.
So just so you know, every time you say Melissa, I just hear YMG scum.
Okay, tell the story. Tell the story. It's
Melissa,
so good.
how do you feel about being called YMG scum?
Well, believe it or not, this is what we were called by the New Yorkers back then.
Okay, Melissa.
All right.
Can you start the story off?
Yeah,
for us?
sure. So YMG stands for Your Move Games. They were the New England Magic store and my LGS. There were 2 stores, one in Boston, one in Providence. I played at the Providence store, but anyway, so this store was like the pro players at the store were Dave Humphreys, Rob Daugherty, Darwin Castle, all now in the Hall of Fame, and Justin Gary, and
Paul Rietzel.
Paul Rietzel, for sure. Can't forget about him. He was a little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he had a great nickname, which
Yeah.
was Lil D.
His nickname was Little Darwin because he was like the up and coming teenage kid, you know, like he was like a really good player. I remember I was in my like very early 20s, maybe like 20 years old or something, and he was like a teenager, and I was like, man, this kid's so good. He's probably better than me, and he's so little, man.
And he was having a kid this weekend, right? That's why he wasn't here.
Oh, really?
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Wow.
that.
Oh, snap. Time,
Yeah.
y'all.
Time. So there is this rivalry between your store, Melissa, and your store, Brian.
Absolutely. So Neutral Ground was a store in New York. Very similar pedigree of players that went through, Zvi Moshowitz, Steve O'Mahony Schwartz, John Finkel, Mike Postilnik is another person who was a regular there who won a Pro Tour. Osip Lebedovich and Pat Sullivan, even though they were target guys, they would, their big events were generally at Neutral Ground. There's a ton of players who came through there. And when Pro Tour qualifiers were happening every weekend, right, you would road trip. And you would go, because they're, it's like, okay, we're going to go drive to Boston.
Absolutely.
And, the goal was to steal a slot at the Pro Tour from someone in Boston. You really want to go. And the Boston crew would come down to New York, and they desperately wanted to steal a slot out from under us. And that
We
was
can't let those dirty Boston kids on that
it
Pro
was kind
Tour.
of, it was pretty good-hearted, I think, right? It was good-hearted, right?
I think for the most part it was good-hearted. They were like, the New Yorkers were not the nicest people. Like, I remember...
I think that's just a true statement generally.
So I played in my first very big event, which was U.S. Nationals 2000, and my round one opponent in Constructed was Mike Flores, and I had heard of him, and I knew he was a writer, and I knew that he was from Neutral Ground, but I never talked to him before, and he was just so mean to me.
Oh, Mike!
And
YMG scum.
he probably doesn't even remember it. Maybe he would be nice to me now, who knows? But I just remember being like, wow, just because I'm from your move. Because there was no other
Some
reason.
Jets and Sharks action going on.
Yeah,
here.
it was.
No, it was just like something you would do to get yourself pumped up for the event too, and I don't know, it was just fun.
You're throwing darts at pictures of people from the other store.
So Rob Daugherty owned Your Move Games, and so at some point he and I, in the
Had to have a peace treaty, like a meeting.
No, we didn't have it. We actually
Never.
fanned the flames.
They had a fight.
So we created a tournament series called the Grudge Match.
Oh.
And so every week in each of our stores, there would be a tournament, and then which would qualify players for a big tournament in the store. And then at the end of the winner of that tournament and the winner of the Your Move Games tournament would then go to, you could find this on the Pro Tour coverage actually some places, our champion would go up against their champion.
But Melissa was the end boss back in those days.
Oh, absolutely.
This was actually later. During the grudge match days, I was too new to be good at Magic, so I never won any grudge matches back then. But I remember all the good players at Your Move would, play in them and win them, and I would try and play and usually scrub out or whatever. So I wasn't really that good back then. But as time went on, in the mid 2000s, I would say, I was actually winning a lot of PTQs.
Yeah. You'd be like, oh no, Melissa's in the
humble.
top. You'd be like, oh no, Melissa's in the top 8.
Yeah, actually, I did top 8 a lot of PTQs. I didn't win very many. I've only won 5 in my life. But I do have a lot of the top 8 pins.
5.
Oh, yeah.
One day I found them all. I have
You got pins
30
back
of them.
then? That's
Oh, yeah.
sweet.
Eventually they stopped giving out the pins, but they were really cool to
Yeah,
collect.
because Melissa was bankrupting them.
Why are we gonna print pins just so that Melissa can add to her collection?
That's sweet, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a pretty nice collection of top 8 pins.
And what was cool is when we were talking on the pro panel at the Mythic Championship this weekend, we were talking to Luis and Raf Levy and Chris Kavarchek as kind of 3 generations of Magic. And I asked Raf, oh, what's the biggest difference between now and then? And he said, the internet. You couldn't just go on and be like, oh, what's the best deck? Click. You would literally show up to tournaments and have to read your opponent's cards because you did not know what they did, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah.
and the biggest difference. And Chris Kavartek, you know, the newest generation was like, I can't conceive of being a Magic player then. I don't know if I would even be any good without the internet, which I think is neat.
Yeah, it's true. I still think of like, definitely the times that I have done the best for me in Magic is when I've done my research.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Which
know
is
what
just
I'm up against.
Oh, did I read articles? Did I distill them
I
down
know
for my
what tricks
sideboarding
they
plan?
have?
Exactly.
So one of the big things that came out of the grudge match is I was running a big standard tournament, you know, like 60, 70 players would show up every Saturday to play standard, and we published all the deck lists. This was not something, I mean,
happened?
top 8 lists would get published all the time, right? Like, you know, from a GP, you'd get the top 8 list, or from a PT, but like from other events, from like day-to-day events, there just weren't deck lists. There was no Saffron Olive yet, right? There was no, Wizards of the Coast didn't publish, you know, deck lists. And so we would do a metagame breakdown, we would do deck lists, we would do like an example of every deck and its highest place. Like, this is the highest placing Fires deck, and this is what it looks like. And this deck finished in 17th place, but it was the highest ranking blue-black control deck. And that was something pretty new. And it was also, you know, you saw people getting that taste of like, oh, wow, there's like details we can tweak, and there's like nuance to all of this stuff from week to week to week, and it was pretty amazing, and it was I think a big step in terms of what kind of content people wanted online about Magic.
Gosh, it makes me nostalgic. Like, part of me wishes that it was still sort of like that, you know? Like, it was harder to get this information. Like, I had to at least make me buy a magazine and like flip through it. Maybe that's just me being old, but I loved the day. Like, this is the comparison I'm gonna make. The Beanie Baby craze. Who remembers this?
I had so many Beanie Babies.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
I was all in on this because it was the rush of like, oh, maybe I'll find the super rare one or whatever. Maybe I'll crack that mythic. And I would buy those magazines and like figure out the pricing and like which ones were going up and down and which stores could I maybe find and wait in line at 5 a.m. or whatever. And
keep going, because after that I want to make a point. But go ahead.
No, I'm like almost done. But I mean, like that kind of experience is what I think about, or like trying to crack cheat codes early on in video games when there was no internet. The same kind of thing.
Yeah. I was just going to say, do you remember that there was like a commemorative Princess Diana bear Beanie Baby?
Yes.
And is that not kind of messed up and super weird? Isn't that weird?
I don't know.
Isn't that
maybe.
like the most expensive beanie still or something?
Well, no. Back then, I mean, Princess Di was, but also there was like super rare, like there was this elephant. Oh my God, why do I remember this? There was the elephant, but it was made in dark blue material instead of the light blue material, and that one was like super rare.
I'm just saying that you were selling a Beanie Baby to kids who basically had no context for what Princess Di meant to people.
Do you know who was
They were just like, it's a purple bear.
You know, Zach Hill was a big Beanie Baby guy.
Was he?
Yeah,
really?
that's how he got his like
That
start.
sounds right.
That makes
Honestly,
sense to me.
that doesn't surprise me.
He was a Beanie Baby entrepreneur as a kid.
Wow.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. There's like an NPR episode
I'm
where
gonna
they
go
talk about
find it.
Magic, which he's on, talking about collecting Beanie Babies.
I think at my peak I had 150 probably.
They're still in a bin in my dad's house.
Oh, I got rid of mine.
I don't know what they're doing. Like, what should I do
I
with
have
them?
a ton too, but nowhere near 150 levels. But like, I also tried to collect them and see which ones were valuable. I would look them all up in the magazine. Like you said, none of them were worth anything.
I had a bookshelf that was only for Beanie Babies.
yeah, same.
I honestly, looking back, like, can't believe it.
But it was fun. It was something to do. I don't know.
It really was. I mean, I loved it. My friends loved it. It was weird.
I have a bin of Happy Meal toys.
Oh, me too.
Oh.
Yeah. My mom collected those and was like, "These are gonna be worth money someday."
Still waiting.
Still waiting on
I'll tell
that.
you the ones that I have that are a little out there. Briar horses.
Oh, I remember the
don't
Briar
know what
Horse
those
days.
are.
Yeah.
They were like about this big,
Super
about
nice
the size of
models.
a football. Yeah. And they were like little horse models. I remember that I think at the time they cost about $25 to $30 each, because that was a lot.
It was a lot.
That was a lot for us. So like that was like months worth of allowances for me. But I would, like, that was what I saved for. I did not spend my allowances. And I probably also have like 30 Briar horses.
We're going to have an eBay auction for all of
yeah.
Megan's Briar horses.
For me, that was comic books and baseball
yeah.
cards.
Oh,
Baseball
yeah.
cards briefly, but then comic books were really
Yeah.
like the thing where, you know, that experience of having, I still have my first comic book price guide.
Wow.
Right, where you couldn't look
cool.
stuff up, right? You know, there was
Yeah.
like a book, and it's like I have the
Wizard magazine, right?
Wizard magazine for Magic cards. Yeah, I mean, you
Amazing.
talk about that idea. Like, you used to get deck lists, not online. You would get deck lists in a magazine, which would come out after the event, right? Like Duelist magazine and Sideboard magazine. When you guys visit New York, I have all the Duelists and Sideboards.
Yeah,
Oh my
I still
God.
have
In
some
my
old
office.
sideboards at my parents' house, and
Okay,
like
so-
you look back at them, and there's like articles written by Brian Kibler and like other like players who are well-known
and
players
other
from
Bryans.
back then. Perhaps other
Maybe
Bryans.
other Bryans. Who can
Other
say?
Bryans.
So all we need to do is destroy the internet, and we're all going to
Yeah,
be a
we're
lot
all gonna-
happier.
That sounds great.
Honestly, look, I will say my happiness definitely correlates inversely with how much I'm on the internet.
It's true. It's true. All right, somebody get on this.
Yeah. God, I had they had a special Christmas Briar horse every year, and I have them. I think I probably have at least
Megan,
3 of them.
Is there a Hess truck that has like a horse carrier that you could put the Briar horse on?
What if I gave you a Briar horse for Christmas this year? What would you do? And it was the Christmas
Maria,
Briar horse.
I would literally lose my mind. Like, I don't think I would be able to handle that.
Do they still make them? Are they still a thing?
I don't know.
I gotta
I don't
find
know.
out.
We have
You're
to
gonna look
find
it up?
out. Oh my.
Do you want to crack this mystery booster and then?
Yeah.
Well,
Let's
Mystery
do it.
Booster, you were talking about this idea of like getting to see cards for the first time without any
Yeah.
information. And that was actually
Yeah.
successfully managed this weekend for the Mystery Booster event.
It really
Yeah.
was. Nobody knew what was in these or what the deal was. Even a lot of people at Wizards of the Coast didn't know. Did you know, Melissa?
I did know what they were.
Oh, okay.
Like, I didn't know exactly what the contents were. Like, I didn't work on the product at all. I did do some of the artwork for the playtest cards.
Oh, they're so cool.
But I didn't like have any input of like what cards are in the packs or whatever. Like, all I knew was like, oh, it's Chaos Draft, and there's also this playtest card of like cards that were either like inside jokes or cards that were in design files that didn't make it, or cards that were designed by contestants in the Great Designer Search 3. There's a lot of those in there, and just like random cards designed by people from around the company, not necessarily in R&D.
Is it more Chaos Draft or Cube Draft, do you feel like?
I feel like it's more chaosy. Like there's just a lot of limited
Yeah.
commons in there.
I only drafted this once, but I had a great time.
It was awesome.
I got to draft a Sphinx's Tutelage deck.
Which is
Which
like
is just-
Megan's invitational
Yeah,
card.
it's like all that I want in
mean-
life is to suddenly see a copy of Sphinx's Tutelage in the pack that I'm picking from and be able to be like, yes.
I drafted a Rakdos deck. Like, what more do I
Yeah.
want in my life? A great
Exactly.
Rakdos deck. I had 2 copies of Dismember. Like, hello.
It was super fun.
I got to take many extra turns against Maria.
Yes, you
because
did.
I shuffled 4 proxies of Time Walk into my deck with Time Sidewalk. At the start of the game. And it was so funny too, because like you're doing this draft and you just want to have fun, and like Ephro's there and Marshall's there, and and they're just like, that card's actually just not
Yeah.
They're
like, go
they're
away.
like, I'm just shuffling this, like, is that card good? And I'm like, I don't care.
Spiky.
Go away, you
We're
Grinch.
playing in a bar for like no stakes. Like I just want to make Time Walk copies.
Yeah. I mean, for people who don't know, Mystery Booster Draft was debuted at the Magic Fest at Richmond this weekend, and it is essentially Chaos Draft. There's like 1,600 cards in this set. It's insane. And there's one, what they call playtest card a pack, which is trying to replicate the experience of playing with playtest cards in R&D and testing, but they're very silly. Some of them are super powerful. Some of them are terrible. There's cards from so many different sets in here.
I think my favorite one is 1 black mana, you lose the game.
You lose the game, yeah, that's an example.
Yeah.
There's one old frame art in every booster pack, so we're gonna do a pack one,
You're
pick one
in
here.
Command is the one I really liked. I got to make a Shriek Maw my commander.
Wow.
Wow.
That
So you
is
just
a-
evoke that?
Ouch.
All right, everybody. Our first card is Baneslayer Aspirant. This is the playtest card. 1 and a white for a 2/2. It gets +3/+3 and has flying, first strike, and lifelink as long as you have 1 or more emblems. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this card's sweet.
We also have a Faith's Fetters in here. Enchant permanent. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. The permanent can't attack or block and use activated abilities unless they're mana ones.
One of
All
my
right.
favorite cards of all time.
Faith's Fetters is
card.
like a cube staple.
Yeah.
Solid removal spell.
Yeah. And you can put it on planeswalkers.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
permanent. Enchant
Yeah.
permanent.
You can put it on land.
Yeah, you can put it on
Yeah.
land.
Back during the standard format, you would put it on the Vitu-Ghazi land, so they couldn't make the tokens.
Cool.
Smart.
All right, we've got Fortify in here. Choose one. It's an instant. Your creatures either get +2/+0 or +0/+2 until end of turn. Chrono Stutter. 5 and a blue. Put target creature into its owner's library second from the top at instant speed.
Ooh.
That's kind of cool. Storm Sculptor. You remember this card? It's a 3/2 merfolk. It can't be blocked. When it ETBs, return a creature you control to its owner's hand. Miasmic Mummy is the 2/2 for 1 and a black from Amonkhet. When it ETBs, each player discards a card. Okay. We also have, oh gosh, how do you say this?
Okina Gang Shinobi.
Oh, yeah.
Okiba Gang Shinobi.
Classic Betrayers of Kamigawa card.
Look, they're rat ninjas. 3 black for a 3/2 with ninjutsu for 3 and a black. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards 2 cards. That's mean.
Yeah,
That's
that
mean.
card's great.
Okay, that's a pretty good one. Blazing Volley deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control for a single red. All right, getting rid of those token strategies. Tarfire for a single red once again deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Tribal Instant Goblin.
It is also a goblin.
That is weird.
So you can
It's a
search that up
goblin.
with a goblin matron and
Yes.
That's bizarre. Okay.
Nice.
You get it in
Hit her
your
with a
hand
goblin
with the
ringleader.
goblin ringleader.
yeah.
Seek the Wilds, 1 and a green for a sorcery. Look at the top 4. You may reveal creature or land, put it into your hand, the rest on the bottom. We've got another kind of ramp here, Fertile Ground, 1 and a green to enchant a land. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, it adds an additional mana of any color.
It's an Abzan guide. I
and-
loved this
Abzan
card.
Guide. Remember this card from Cons?
It's a little 4/4
4/4.
lifelink with morph.
Morph. And the morph is 2 white, 2
and an
Abzan.
Abzan.
2 and an
Two and
Abzan.
an
We'll say it
Abzan.
that way.
It's so
I loved
adorable that
that.
you guys are so nostalgic over the Cons of
I know.
Tarkir card.
We are. We love Cons of Tarkir.
This is like
awesome.
you children.
All right.
But we loved cons so
We've
much.
got Guardians of Meletus 06 with Defender for 3. Remember this?
Oh yeah.
Here's my nostalgia card, the next one.
Okay, so this is the old border. Soothsaying for a single blue. So Windmill Slam here from Brian. Enchantment, 3 blue, shuffle your library. Okay. X, look at the top X cards of your library and put them back in any order.
No, I'm not. It's not a windmill slam for me. I'm just pissed because I was looking for a soothsaying for my Estrad Commander deck this weekend. I could not find one at any of the dealers and spent $25 on a foil.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Rick? And I just opened
and
it
you
right
just
now?
opened it right now.
That's bad beats, man. And our rare is Prey Caesar Dragon, 4 red for a 4/4 Dragon Flyer with Devour 2. So as it enters the battlefield, you can sacrifice any number of creatures, and it gets that many counters. Whenever it attacks, it deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on it. Oh, that's sweet.
Dang.
Okay, so that's what I'm taking. What are you all taking here?
I think the dragon is the pretty clear pick here. You know, it's a pretty big flyer.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's take the Dragon out of commission. Let's say that's not there. What do you want?
Let's say get that out of here. Let's see. The Tarfire is a pretty cool pick.
The Rat Ninjas are cool.
The Rat Ninja's nice. Like I don't really know what's in the format, so I don't like. I don't
Those
know
are
if
some nice
there's
rat
like cheap
ninjas.
evasion creatures that you can combo with that. Faith's Fetters is a really strong card.
That's
yeah,
true,
it
that's
looks like
true.
if you take the dragon out of the picture, it's just Faith's Fetters.
Yeah, that's probably it for me as well.
All right, what are you taking, Megan?
Look, you know I'm a little control baby at heart.
Yeah.
So I'm taking that Faith's Fetters.
Okay, I kind of like the Baneslayer Aspirant too, but I need to open a Planeswalker.
But you
Yeah.
don't have Planeswalkers.
One of the things that
Maybe I
I've
will.
noticed, I've done a handful of drafts in this format
Yeah.
now, is that 5-color nonsense is something you can do. And I would actually consider, sans the rare, taking Fertile Ground
oh, sure,
and then
yeah.
just figuring out
doing
what
it.
all my 5-color nonsense cards are as the draft progresses.
Yeah.
And just being like, you know what, I'm going to prioritize having like insane mana and being able to do anything. I had someone play against me in a draft, and they cast They were largely a blue deck, and they cast Violent Ultimatum.
What is that?
It's not blue. It's like red, 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 black, black, green, green.
What?
You know, it's like a Cruel Ultimatum style card.
Okay.
Where they get to destroy 3 of your permanents. And he did it to me 3 times in the same game.
Wow.
And,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
yeah, it was ridiculous.
I will say, here's my moment of mystery draft. Like
Yeah.
I said, Sphinx's tutelage. There's, I also had the Mirari conjecture, which is where you get back an instant and then a sorcery and then it like doubles. And there's a card that's 4 white blue. Target player gains 7 life and draws 2 cards.
Kiss of the Amisha.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And
Wow.
in one single match, I cast that card 4 times. One time doubling it with Mirari Conjecture to gain
Sick.
14 life and draw 4 cards.
So I guess what we're saying is your store might carry some mystery booster products and have a mystery booster draft. Do it.
Worth noting, though, the
playtest cards will not be in there.
are only going to be at convention boosters.
Yes, that is correct. Mark Rosewater confirmed today that it'll be something else in
Oh.
that slot,
Ooh.
but we don't know what.
A foil, maybe?
Maybe a foil. But like I think these are the playtest cards are
Yeah,
so
very
fun.
fun.
So if you go to a Magic Fest, do a mystery booster draft. It's just stupid. It's so fun.
Just one?
Yeah.
I mean, do more than
many.
one, honestly. I had so much fun in that draft last
I had a
night.
great time.
I did 2 drafts, and they were both super fun.
Yeah.
And players that I've talked to, they've been just doing draft after draft.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agree. So like get out there and try it. I think this is super sweet stuff.
Before we go, thank you to Ultra Pro, another one of the sponsors of this show.
Yay, we love Ultra Pro. They make so many cool things. Every day
Yes.
I'm on Twitter and I'm following the Ultra Pro account, which is at Ultra Pro INTL. And they've just are debuting all sorts of cool new deck boxes and stuff.
And you know what? If you enjoy magic art in any capacity, like why would you not shop with them?
I don't
because
know.
it is the #1 way, in my opinion, to like enjoy it in your magic life. Of like you can get it on playmats, you can get it on deck boxes.
Yeah, they have it on
If you like
everything.
it, you can look at it while you play Magic.
And at the Pro Tour during the draft, they handed out sleeves to everybody. And guess
Yeah.
what? They were Ultra Pro sleeves and they looked great.
They looked so good.
People on watching the stream are like, oh, what are those sleeves they're using?
Guess what?
Ultra Pro.
Ultra Pro.
Hey everybody, that's this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here for this special episode, and thank you especially to our special guests Brian and Melissa.
Yay!
Yay.
Where can people find you two on the internet if they want to, keep
If the
hearing
internet
from you?
hasn't been destroyed
if
by
we
them.
haven't
Oh, yeah.
destroyed the internet.
I am at Top 8 Games on Twitter. That's probably the easiest way to find me.
Yeah, figure out all the cool stuff that he's up to.
Yeah.
I'm at Melissa DeTora on Twitter. I also do a stream most Mondays in my life, but not every Monday. Monday, 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific, I stream Arena with Paul Chian, where we mostly play Arena, but we also answer your guys' questions about Magic design or just anything Magic related.
I love that stream.
In
Yeah.
theory, I might start streaming.
Really?
Ooh.
Yeah, I finally got a new computer, and it is a gaming computer, and it has the whole
I would
setup.
watch you
So
play
I
Magic.
might need someone
I would watch
to
you
help
play.
me figure out how to do it.
I would
but
watch
then
you
I
play
would-
Minecraft.
Oh, God.
I would watch Brian play any game, I
Yeah,
think.
that's honestly true.
Yeah.
I was gonna say about your stream though, Melissa. Once I was watching you and Paul, and you like drew your opening hand, and I think it was a draft. And Paul's like, "Oh, I guess we're gonna keep that." And you're like, "Boom, mulligan!" Like snap it off.
That was a misclick mulligan. I clicked the wrong button. It was so
It
sad.
was very funny though.
I was like, no, that hit was perfect.
The stream was super entertaining and a great opportunity for you to go in there and ask some questions if you have play design questions.
Thanks again to everyone who helps make this show happen. Who helps make this show happen by being a patron over at patreon.com/glhfmagic. Again, thank you so much. It allows us to do cool stuff like this,
Yeah.
as well as to Card Kingdom and Ultra Pro, just 2 of the best sponsors that we could ask for.
Yeah, so thank you so much for listening. It means a lot to us that you hang out with us every single week.
It does.
And to our guests once again for being in this conference room with us and having this panel.
Rhubarb.
Now I want rhubarb
Now we're going to put Brian and Melissa in the middle of this circle of tables and make them fight out their old grudge match. Fight.